ain't going nowhere. We're back. My man Des said I contradicted myself, so we don't let him start. Go.
Well, I think what you're saying is a contradiction because you're saying that Oprah is influential.
Big time.
And she's mainstream. And so is the hip hop that she's against. That she's not, you know, against the underground stuff or the stuff that's not her. She's against the stuff that's mainstream, that's also just as influential in its right as she is in her right.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So
I don't let the brother speak. Wait. Let Def speak. You next, and then Corey next. Go ahead.
I don't think not mainstream, but I think you mean to say she's against misogynistic
hip hop.
Hip hop. Yeah, not necessarily mainstream, because if it's mainstream and it can be used in a positive sense,
well, which means
like Will Smith, he don't even curse. He like him. I mean,
but that's not the majority of the.
He's garbage. But the point is, she'll work with that sort of.
But he hasn't recorded in ages.
It don't matter. What I'm saying, I'm just using him as an example.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to say. Okay. Though she's mainstream, she's not against mainstream. She's against misogyny.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
I think too. She probably. Oh, sorry.
You had something to say.
But as much
you go after the brother here,
okay? As much as you're aggravated with how influential Oprah is and how I think one thing Oprah should do, instead of saying I'm against hip hop, I'm not even sure if she's saying I'm against hip hop, right, but just definitively say I'm against the misogyny in hip hop. Because I'm sure she would love some De La Soul.
If she heard
it. Culture, I doubt she said hip hop. I think it's the culture that's breeding.
Just as much as you're frustrated with her about how influential she is, and for her to say I don't like hip hop because you feel like that's an attack on black males, I'm sure she's just as frustrated as seeing how influential people like Jay-Z, Kanye, 50 are, and it's like, I don't want little girls that I'm trying to educate and bring up thinking that it's okay for you to call them bitches and hoes.
Or be half naked on
video. And by her actually selling into that, she
depends on how deep you listen.
But I want to, the interview that I did with Kid and Play, Chris Facts.
Well,
and I'm about to bring out some of my, I gotta find my old tapes and bring them out. When they talked about how they took hip hop, what happened was they had a 5-year contract.
Who's this? Who are you talking about?
Kid and Play. 5-year contract. And when they started coming into our neighborhoods, they realized there's another version of that type of music. Hip hop was built on the positive aspirations of the educational, and we were moving, and the generation that was listening to that, those guys that were doing that particular type of music were college educated. They knew how to read a contract. In the years that I've been doing my business in terms of taking independent artists and learning in the magazines, whatever, I come to find out that those that were educated never got the contract after those years of switching. They were pulled. Their 5-year contract was never completed by the people that they wrote. I mean, that wrote the contract.
You're talking about Kid and Play specifically?
Yeah.
You're talking about select records?
No, yeah, but no, there's other aspects. What they did was, 5 years, they're supposed to be on tour. This is just tours, and that's how they make their money.
Right. Real money.
Okay? They went into the neighborhoods of Brooklyn, Chicago, Texas, wherever, and they started hearing this gangster rap. Okay? They cut them out of the 2 years. After the 3rd year, they mixed them with, it was an LL, and then it was NWA. And then by the 5th year, it was just all gangster, because they said, oh, we have control. Understand, we do not, as I think, a black community, understand the power, okay, of media. Radio is nice, because all you get is, yeah, they're just saying, love yourself, love yourself, love yourself, love yourself. That'd be great. Yeah. And that's what they were doing. And they said, nigga, 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 nigga. It's hypnotic. So if I'm forever calling you a nigger, a hoe, a bitch, a nigger, a hoe, and a bitch, a nigger, a hoe, and a bitch, a nigger from the time that you're 2 to the time that you're 15 or 55, you're a nigger, a hoe, and a bitch.
I totally disagree. I'm going to fight that statement till my dying breath. Because as somebody who was born in '78, around about the time when hip hop was born, and who listened to it up until today, and I'm talking every form. I listen to everything from Dead Prez, De La Soul, to NWA, Meek Mills, and all the other gangster rap. So it's not solely on the art. You know what I'm saying? It's not solely on the art. It's not solely on the radio. I happen to work at a place where we don't play the radio. I happen to live in a household where the radio isn't played. So what's selected musically is what I select. It's what we go for. But the thing is,
associate diversity with one single thing.
So what I'm saying is create diversity. Don't when you tell your kids not to listen not to do something, especially teenage kids. Don't do something. They're gonna do it.
Because I work.
Especially if you don't present them with another option.
Right, but who's presenting the option? When you're getting paid an extra $1,000, and this is fact, to put the N-word in your rap. I don't hear nobody say, yo, you spit, come on, you spit, come on, you spit. Can't get with me. Can't get with me. You know, why isn't anybody
I get you. No, I get you. You're right. I hear your point.
See, we arguing about that because a lot of artists do not hold themselves. They don't, a lot of artists don't act responsible. And I think part of that is something wrong with their spirit. Because we can go on all day material, money, you know, psychology, the mental.
It's a lot of stuff you do when you're broken hungry, man.
They going through a nigga moment, as they say in the Boondocks.
Right.
Something wrong with the spirit. If their connection with the Most High off, they're gonna do stuff that's not intact. Because of that, it's gonna build. And they're gonna have more artists that continue that. Because they don't think like we do just in this circle here where we can debate that because we think very in versatile manners, you know what I mean? Like if your spirit is off, you don't hold yourself responsible, you know that the babies are watching you like, what's her name said on BET 2012 Awards? Gospel artist.
Yolanda Adams?
Yes.
I didn't even see the award show.
She said the babies are watching us. She said we gotta be responsible. They wanna be like us. If they not responsible, art goes down the journey.
Okay, so can we bring it back to the topic?
I just had to throw that.
Because
let her go because she want to touch on that, and then Des you up, and then you.
It has to be something with the human spirit.
You know what? I can agree with many parts of what everybody's saying. I think it's interesting how we always look at it from the artist first, when in actuality they can only produce music that we listen to
or buy.
There's a ton of artists that are not popular, they're not mainstream, and we don't buy their stuff. We don't support them, we don't go to their shows. And they're constant, we live in New York City, so we have access to them way more than other people do in other parts of the country.
That's right, you can walk up to them and touch them.
So it starts with us. The only reason why Lil Wayne, Drake, and all these other people can make the money they're making is because we support it. Whenever they come on TV, we turn it on. Whenever they do a show, we sell out the house 4 and 5 nights in a row. We will not pay a light bill to make sure we go see a Beyonce concert. The reason why these people are doing it is not because they have quality music. It's not that, and some of it is good. Sure, absolutely, it's because we support them. The record labels, the music industry, it doesn't exist anymore. People are self-starting their careers. The reason why they can do that is because they can pull up in front of a shop and sell 10, 15,000 copies of a mixtape out of the back of their car.
At $5 a watt and keep every penny.
Because we support it.
And because they got 5,000 Twitter followers.
Yeah.
We
who
support
go to
it.
their shows and tell their other 5,000
So
friends.
if you curse, if you call women these names and all that other stuff, that's because that's what you support. I don't support that kind of music. I went last week to see Georgia and Mojo, and I spoke her name to like 15 people that I knew, and they were like, who?
Can I play devil's advocate though? Can I play devil's advocate? I say it gotta be an artist. The artist is what puts it out first. And people are gonna pump it no matter what. Good, bad, trash. Eventually, if you play something that's trash enough, people won't like it. Then we start demanding. So I say the responsibility is on us too, but I think first it has to be on the artist. So
But see, you can't do that because now you're saying there's too many artists in the world. There's too many artists in the world to have a censorship on music. Music is not
Censorship on art,
censorship.
on art, period.
I say
music,
responsibility. I'm saying the word responsibility.
But see, the thing
There's
is-
a difference between censorship.
but the audience outweighs the artist. There's more audience than there is artists.
Yeah, there's
That's what I'm
never
saying. The artist
gonna
gotta be responsible. To me, I say that
But what
because
you
No,
feel
I'm
is
saying
responsible.
that
I'm saying
everybody
it because
is
how many
equal.
artists-
Responsible. Everybody has their own morals.
No, I understand.
And the bottom line is,
I didn't think you
if
said
there, it starts with the art, but there's also people who go into the art for the money. Because they see the money and they say, oh, let me pin that.
And that's-
Let
but
me
to
see if
me,
I
that's
can do
not
this.
what's being
But then there are
responsible.
people, but that's your opinion. But then
Right, but responsible
I'm
for what?
saying that
Because
because-
if I'm
I
feeding
say-
my family off of this, what you call ignorance, yo, I'm being very responsible because I could just shoot you.
Actually, to do both.
It's
The
enough
reason why they can't be responsible because the word doesn't get out for the community to support.
But if
So
someone
they
is,
fall in. And
but if somebody is buying it, who's to say it's wrong? Well, you
Right.
bought it.
But you can make
If I'm
money
making money,
without
why is
having
it
to
wrong?
be ignorant.
I'm not
Or
going to
whatever.
say that,
Right.
you know,
Sure.
artists
Certain original
the artists can
morals.
go to all the ends and the B's, that's fine. Because you cannot really say what art is. But it's be able to support the balance.
We're placing too much we have these high expectations of what creative content is. And Ozzy Osbourne is a multi-platinum artist. I would never listen to anything he says because he makes no sense. But that's just me. It doesn't mean that there are 15 million people in the world who love his music.
I love his music.
And he's also never been held responsible for his
Black Sabbath, I
ignorance
love
But
the way that rappers are.
Now
But
imagine if,
that's the
Well, that's the
Imagine
whole
if-
going back to black Sunny media.
but
I mean,
imagine if
you know,
responsibility
that's
was
going back.
at a high
But you
law,
were gonna
period.
say something.
No
But
matter
responsible for what? Like when you say responsibility, what am I responsible for?
I don't have
As a creator who's doing expression,
Nothing.
right? This is my creative expression. It's coming out of my spirit and my soul.
Nothing.
However it looks, I'm not saying it's always pretty, I'm not saying
Can
it's
I-
always right, but it's my creativity coming out of me. Do I have to be responsible for how you interpret it?
no.
No, not how you interpret it, but this is what I'm saying. Because I'm an artist
That
too.
same.
Since
No!
But what I mean is,
I don't have no problem admitting I'm biased against Oprah. I am.
Okay.
what I mean is, to me,
Right.
part of that is ego. I can just make whatever because I'm an artist. To me, that is bullshit.
You show me an artist without an ego.
No. Can I finish?
Sure.
I'm trying to get to a point.
I guess so. You go.
You saw it, right?
It's
Actually, that's their it,
Can I-
but go ahead.
Go ahead.
listen. It's ego when you're making stuff that it doesn't move people positively. In a sense of when I say these artists, they have to remember that they are spiritual beings. I'm saying this because C.S. Lewis said, "I don't have a soul. I am a soul. I have a body." We forget. Too many artists forget that they are spiritual beings, or they don't know it. They don't want to recognize it. Whatever. You come from a higher force. You have to make art. At the end of the day, your art somehow has to reflect something that comes beyond you.
But you
And
have-
when that's
I'm
the
gonna touch on
case, then you're being responsible. Then you don't have to worry about what you're putting out because it's calling people to become a better people. It's not just.
I'm gonna let you go, then I'm gonna go.
No, I think that we, well, everybody.
And it's the ego.
is addressing like blacks in media, kind of bringing it back to talking about blacks in the media. Like I think we see. I had this discussion with somebody about Tyler Perry because I think we see one or two or maybe a handful of key figures, and there are thousands, maybe even millions of people out there who can be influential in some way. Talking about influence, responsibility, talking about a lot of things. I think that we put so much on a handful of people to kind of carry the weight of Black America, and I think that we'll say they're not doing what they should do or they're not being influential or responsible, in their way. But then what are we doing? Instead of just buying their stuff or watching their shows or going to support their movies,
But
what are we doing to be influential and
Who
responsible?
said that? Will said that in his song. He said, "Don't ask yourself where hip hop is going.
Ask yourself where you go, and you'll know where hip hop is going.
The thing is, it's the same thing with everything. It's the same thing with everything. Yes, we all are souls, but think about the fact: how many people who don't consider themselves creative artists look at themselves as being souls? So that means that those same artists are making music for those same people. You're making music for people who recognize that they are a soul connected to a body. There's other people making music for folks who are on drugs. There's other people making music for folks who like hugging trees.
Somebody's making a record for the dude that wants to go shoot somebody, but he won't because you rapped about it first.
Right. I mean, and the thing is, we're placing all these high expectations on the community of art, recognizing that we live in a very secluded bubble. And that's why media, I think when it comes down to Black, African, diasporic media, is the hardest thing to produce because we are so diverse of a people.
Yeah, true.
White people are not that diverse. They're very simple. They're either wealthy, middle class, or poor.
That's diversity though.
Yeah, but think about us. Think about us.
We have 3 levels of poor.
No, not only that, but think about us on a global scale.
I do.
Think about us as far as like skin complexion. We come from all different parts of the world. There's very few of them. You know, like you don't get that many white people in Africa unless you're in South Africa.
Right.
Now they're starting to form in Nigeria. You know, there's very few of them that are
We got more diversity in
what I
Nigeria
do.
than any other group of people.
They don't know what I do.
Not yet. They're going to find out in a second. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back because I'm cramping up.
They don't know what I do, right?
Leticia has something to say. We're going to let her go before the break because her discussion, her point was on this subject, right?
No, I was just...
Go for it, girl. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I was just saying because I work with youth, and when you say influential, most of the kids that I work with are minorities, are African American, and or Caribbean, and they take from the media and influence it, and I see it in my interactions with them daily on how they interpret how the media puts us out and how they deal with different things. So when it comes to talking about not putting so much on the media, when it comes to youth and how we grew up compared to the shows that we saw as we were growing up compared to the shows now, they're not the same. So in looking at that,
I always put that black on home because
I think so.
I say this all the time. I was able to watch anything on television. I watched what my parents watched. I watched pure ignorance. My mama cursed, all of that. But it was understood by me that that wasn't something I did in the outside world. That wasn't something I did toward my elders. I knew time and place. We're gonna take a quick break and we come right back.
That's a good one.